I got to this place, and as soon as I got to this place, all these synchronicities started happening, right? It was like the universe was actually talking to me, and I was actually able to listen to it.
Yes. Hello and welcome to How We Are Healing, the podcast where real people share vulnerable stories and life learned lessons. I'm Tristan, friendly yoga teacher, and your host through the darkness towards healing, one conversation at a time. And now, on to the episode. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host Tristan, and we are here to talk about how we are healing. Here with me is Ana Seshat, intuitive advisor. Ana, thank you for being on the podcast.
Hello, Tristan. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everyone.
Why don't you get us started by telling us a bit about your healing journey?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it was actually very interesting because when I started like living my life as an adult, I never expected to be actually experiencing this kind of lifestyle,
Right.
which is, the lifestyle that we are more connected to spirit. I used to be a makeup artist and I had my own makeup company and I was teaching. And I remember something that it was like a constant in my reality at that time, that it was that every time that I put makeup in someone, that shift, right? Like when you don't really like the way you look, and then you add some blush, some contour, some highlight, and then boom, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, whoa, I'm this. And I remember the feeling of that shift of energy, right? That at that time I didn't understood it as a shift of energy. For me, it was like, oh, now the person likes itself, right? So for me, that was a very like strong pull into, wait a minute, there's something that I like more that just adding makeup to someone's face, right? And what I liked the most, it was the shift of energy
Mhm.
from when you really didn't enjoy the way you look, from wait a minute, I can look like this and I can feel like this because I look like this.
Yes.
But what was it, right? Like you had that, you have the makeup, you have the products, but then you wash your face and you go back
Yeah.
to what you are.
Right.
And for me, it wasn't like long lasting.
Right.
And something that I really, really wanted, it was to be long lasting. So that's when I started to question and wonder, okay, what is it that I can do to make it to last longer? So I started like questioning. That's when I started questioning, actually, right? Like I feel that everybody that starts a healing journey will agree with me that the first step to recognize that you are experiencing a reality that really is not something that you really want, and you're choosing it just because everyone tells you, right? Society
Yeah.
and like the collective tells you, well, you should go to school, you should get a degree, you should get a career, and then do that until you have to retire, and then
It's the social contract, right? That's what we call it. Like, I will do my part, and then in return, I get happiness, or I get freedom, or I get whatever it is. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But do we really?
Right.
We don't, right? We don't. It still feels the hole. It still feels like you're missing something. So when I started actually questioning, like, wait a minute, like, yes, this is something that I really enjoy, but it doesn't really makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I believe that the fulfillment is very important. And this is how we can recognize the person that is healed, right? That for me, actually, because I see that we are energy, I don't really call it as healed. I call it as balanced or integrated.
Yeah.
Right? We are energetic beings, and we are vibrating at certain frequencies all the time. But when these frequencies are not aligned, we're going to be experiencing a life of lack,
Yes. Exactly.
right?
Well, I think most people, I would say, on Earth feel that way. Well, I did read one statistic recently. 1 in 9 people from the United States are millionaires. 1 in 9. So maybe there is something to that about just mindset and the connection to money, or even money and the connection to spirituality.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Wow.
Yes, because the way also we learn spirituality is that you have to get rid of all your almost like material possessions in order to actually connect with your spirit,
Right.
right? Like that is the journey of the shaman. That is the journey of the one that really heals.
The renunciate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to say no to material wealth, and that's the only way I can actually reach my spirit. But I also don't feel that's really the way.
I completely agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of source energy in money because it is energetic. Like we're energetic beings and money is energetic.
Yes.
I do think like money is tied to a whole system and there's a whole lot of bad that is happening, but it's all like there's also a whole lot of good that can happen with money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think money is actually an amplifier.
Yes.
Like the more you have, the more it's going to amplify who you really are, what your real values are,
Hmm.
right? What's your real system of beliefs, what your system of passions. Like it's just an amplifier of who you are. And so I that's when I was starting like questioning, right? Like, okay, what's up with this choice? But what's up with it if I change
Mhm.
my choosing, right?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I without the title?
Not without the title. Yeah.
Women without the title, and that's scary.
Yeah.
That's so scary because we are so accustomed to live by society norms,
Hmm. Well,
right?
it's got this element of if you don't do what your group wants you to do, you get kicked out of the tribe, right? And
Exactly.
losing that connection, it means death.
Exactly. Because at that moment, you are not connected with yourself. So you feel that you're going to be completely and utterly alone.
Yes.
And that's the most scary part of all.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot, I feel like there's a movement around being like happily single, things like this.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I feel that nowadays is becoming more of like a norm, right? The whole subject even of spirituality, even in like musical festivals,
Yeah.
like they are introducing now DJs that are playing to certain frequencies that really align to your soul, and like
Mhm.
there's more of like, static dance and the cacao ceremonies and like the yoga and like all of that spiritual, mainstream. It is exactly that, becoming
Yes.
mainstream.
Yes, I
So
agree. Mantra. That's gonna be the next like crossover.
yes,
I'm like so here for that. I'm so ready for
oh my
that.
God, me too, me
Yes,
too.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we choose that. I think we
Yeah.
choose to be here.
Yeah. I mean, I remember listening to Mantra. I was living in India at the time, up in not in the Himalayas, but like pretty close.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, to hear that music and to be kind of that up high in the sky and in the world and like in that elevation with those people, it really was that kind of experience of
Yeah.
like, oh wow, we are energetic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And now that you mentioned the altitude, I think is like it has a lot to do with the shift of perspective when it comes to being more spiritual. I think that has a lot to do with it because once that I question everything, I decided
Yeah.
with a lot of fear, but I said like, okay, I'm gonna jump into this new adventure because if I don't do, I know for a fact that this that I'm already experiencing, it doesn't really fulfill me.
Yes.
So what do I have to lose, right?
Exactly.
At that moment, it felt like, yeah, it's so scary, the unknown, but I already know that here in this precise moment, I'm not happy.
Right.
And I want to be happy.
Yeah.
I want to be fulfilled. I want to be, somebody that whatever it does, it really puts like a print, even if it's in a person's life.
Yes. Well, the impact, you want to have impact.
Exactly, exactly. So the first urge that I got was when I decided to sell the company and to, like to start new. The first call that I had, it was altitude as well.
Okay. You found some mountains.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I needed altitude. I needed altitude, but I didn't know where. So I look in Google Maps, literally, and I was like, okay, altitude, altitude, altitude. And okay, this place seems like like a good place. And that place is called Mascota,
Mascota.
which is here in Jalisco, and it's like I think 2,000 feet,
Okay.
2,000 meters, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
2,000 meters above sea level. So
Right.
that felt like, okay, altitude is really the way, I think, at the beginning, because it also like opens up your perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's something about if you're in a small closed space, the thoughts kind of creep downward,
Yes.
but as the roof kind of rises above and gets higher and higher, so do the thoughts, so
Yes.
does the energy, so does the light.
Exactly. And more nature than people. Also, that was another big like sign.
Yeah,
More nature than people.
yeah, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So I did it. I was okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, let's just go and like I got to this place, and as soon as I got to this place, all these synchronicities started happening, right? It was like the universe was actually talking to me, and I was actually able to listen to it.
Yes.
Not having the fully, the understanding at that moment, but intuitively, because that's the way soul communicates with us, right?
Mhm.
Through our intuition. That's the divine
Mhm.
call, that's the divine communication.
Yeah.
That we know, but we don't know what we know it, but we know that we know it.
There's an explanation for it that I've heard that our brain has the two hemispheres. So we're in a constant battle between these two identities we have of ourselves.
Yes,
But if you go to the heart and the gut,
yes,
it's kind of the gut has a lot of nerve endings, but so does the heart. But the
yes.
heart is one. The gut is like
It's the
many.
unity, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got two, one, and many different
Yes.
connections. And so when it comes to intuition, it's the focus should be on the heart because it's
Yeah.
one decision.
Yes.
It's not all of the possibilities, everything, all of infinity, and it's not the two that are.
Yeah, the logical, the analysis,
Mhm.
the wait, through past experience, these are the things that might go wrong, right?
These are the numbers, these are the emotions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
But we have to pass beyond that, and we have to trust. I think trust is the major key to experience, you know, um,
yeah.
life connected to source, of connected to your spirit.
Agree. Because you, like you said earlier, you have to reach a point where you're making a decision, which means you're making a life change.
Yes.
And with that life change, this is something that I'm going through. It's like you have to look at everything. You're like, okay, who do I spend my time with?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do I do and experience with all of my senses every moment of every day for the next week? Because that becomes an exercise of, oh, wait a minute, that's a choice. All of that is a choice. Everything I experience, everything I see.
Yes.
And so how do I want to lay that out?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's the questioning part. That's actually the questioning part. When you start actually questioning, why am I choosing the things that I'm choosing?
Mhm.
That's when you start realizing, right? Realization. I love that word because I believe it's the conjugation of two words, right? Real and eyes.
Yeah,
So it's literally like removing the veils of illusion that you got imposed upon,
right.
domestication, programming, familiar, collective, like everything. And
Yeah.
you are removing them in order to see with your real eyes.
Yeah,
Those are the eyes of the soul.
right. Wow, I love that. Oh my God, I love that. So when did you feel that connection first? Were you
Okay,
young? Were you older? I felt it older.
I felt it at 33.
Okay, that's yeah.
It was at
Okay.
33 years old. Yeah.
Wow. And were you in Mascota at that moment or this was
Yes,
before?
yes. I turned 33 when I was still living near Mexico City. And like exactly a month later, I was doing the journey towards the mountains.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But again, I was feeling the call sense, right? I was starting the questioning and the analysis of like, what if I choose something different? What are my friends are gonna think? What is my family gonna think? How is society gonna look at me? Right? We have to go past that.
We have to say, what will I look at me?
Yes.
Right? How will I look at myself? Will I be proud of myself? Will I
Yes.
be
Yes.
doing what I think
Yes.
makes sense?
And
Mhm.
that's another very important step.
Yeah,
Putting yourself first.
you're right.
Thinking through the I more than would they think.
Exactly.
Because I think many people, like many persons right now, are living a reality based on what everybody will think. They're choosing from that.
Exactly. Where they live, right?
Yeah.
Even the house they live in, it
Yeah.
might be what their dad picked for them or
Yeah.
wanted
The
for them.
career.
The career, what is that? I mean, like, I don't know about your upbringing, but mine, it was like I was around 17 and it was like, all right, if I wanted to go to college, I have to pay for it. So I'm all of a sudden put in front of all these legal documents around money that I'm like, all right, well, I think I know what I'm doing.
And you
Like
were a kid at that time. I mean,
at the same time, like I was in high school, so it's like I was a real big nerd. So like I researched. I'm like, okay, yeah, what are the implications?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I made a decision. I was like, all right, it's a gamble, but I think let's see.
yeah.
But that's so crazy because it's like that shouldn't dictate your whole rest of your life. But most of us, I don't want to say most or some, a lot of us look at that decision and don't question it
Mm.
or change it.
Because it's what everybody's doing. Everybody's
Yeah.
following the same structure of life, and it's crazy because even though we see our environment, especially from cities, right, from big cities where we are acting like robots, literally.
Yeah.
We wake up, if we are lucky enough, we have breakfast. If we're not, we run towards work and we stay from 8 to 12 hours there
Mhm.
thinking, daydreaming, right? If only I had more money, right? If only I didn't have these, challenges. Only
Right.
daydreaming and then going back to the house or waiting for the weekend just to, have a drink and maybe forget my problems.
Right.
And that's the day to day. That's the basis of life
Yeah.
in a culture that is not accustomed to question.
Exactly.
So once I got into this town, I was very lucky and supported by universe because that's the thing, right? Once it's like we have free will choice, right? I believe that we come into this human experience, we embody this physical form in order to go through the game of life, in order to have certain experiences, to evolve and realize
Hmm.
we are divinity.
Exactly. I agree. I agree. We are.
Yeah.
And we're at a point right now where like if you look at the average life of a human in 2024, think about this for a second and compare it. A king in the 1600s. Whose life would you want more? Probably ours,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For
Like we're
sure.
living in such interesting times with so much technology, but also, you know, I almost can't mention technology without mentioning what I consider its opposite, which is nature. It's like that we've been so disconnected from nature. How do you connect back with nature personally?
You have to disconnect from the world. You
Mhm.
have to disconnect from everything that you feel is real and again, realize what's the reality. And reality is nature, is the organic living entity that does its job, whether you feel good or not, whether is there's problems in the world or not, if within the humans, nature keeps on going
Right.
over and over and keeps on regenerating and keeps on flowing and keeps on being.
Hmm.
So that's another important part of your healing journey, right?
Is not fighting nature.
No,
And nature in like every sense, the broad sense, environment, but also human nature, aging, right? The nature of life, the nature of how it unfolds.
yes. Acceptance is another valuable key for this existence.
Acceptance, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a technique I've heard of called rapid acceptance, where you just practice when something goes wrong, you go, okay, or not even wrong. I don't like that word. When something just happens,
yeah, out
right?
of your control.
Out of your control, and something
Exactly.
happens, and you go, okay,
Yeah.
today I'm doing this. Whatever it is.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
today I'm doing
Radical
this.
acceptance.
Yes, radically. You're like, okay. Well, that to me, it's something that I'm like now starting to monitor in myself, but also in others. Like, I want my social circle to be people who can radically accept the things we should radically accept. I think maybe there are boundaries, of course, that you need to put a no, to protect yourself. But for the most part, as humans, we should be able to relate with each other just nice ways.
Yeah,
So,
but I think that comes again with recognizing what we are in essence,
mhm.
because if we haven't recognized what we are in essence, we cannot see it in everybody else as well.
How would you define that? Like what we are in a sense? I've got my definition. I wonder if it's close to yours.
Well, through numerology, what we are in essence is frequencies. We are like a musical instrument.
Frequencies.
Yeah, I feel that, the universe is already playing a symphony, and that's nature. The way nature is dancing with everything is already the symphony being played.
Yeah.
And we You are an instrument, I am an instrument, everybody that's listening to this is an instrument. But again, once we enter this human experience, the instrument needs to be tuned.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, I've never heard this analogy and I'm loving it.
So we have to just tune ourselves into our real, keys, which are each and every one of our frequencies,
Yeah.
in order to play along with the universal symphony.
Right. Okay. That's very different than my definition. I love
Okay.
this definition because there's so much story there. The definition I heard is just that all other people that we come across are ourselves pushed out. Our insides are pushed out into the universe, and the whole universe itself is us pushed out.
Yeah. And I
It's
think
all
it kind of connects to my perspective, because at the end, the only way I can tune my instrument, it is through my own reflection,
Mhm.
right? So I need another human being in order to reflect my inner reality, my inner sound,
You're true. That's so
and then
true.
recognize, the way that I'm sounding. Because if, like, imagine your sound comes from within, but if you're not able to recognize what's yours and what's, the echo of everybody else, that at the end is your own projection,
Right.
how are you going to be able to actually tune yourself? In order to tune an instrument, you have to listen to the notes,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's every interaction that you have with your environment.
Going back to you don't control much in the universe, but you can to a big strong degree control what you see and taste and
Yeah.
touch and experience throughout your day. You can plan that and then make it happen, materialize it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and the way that I can, make the way that I perceive what we are. I don't know if you have ever heard this story, that at the beginning there was nothing and then there was sound.
Yeah.
That is the whole beginning of everything, right? And the sound was on, and that was when the Big Bang started, and everything, divided, and that's when the whole creation started. So we are sound.
Yeah.
And what sound? That, music.
Yeah. Sound, we're also light. We're like light kind of slowed down
Yeah.
and put into the side of the equation that
Yeah.
makes matter and material
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. I think the slowing down is also our physical senses, because the physical senses, they are very limited.
Yeah.
So when the physical sense is, connecting to the environment, is going to slow everything down,
Right.
to get the image, to get, the understanding of it all.
Right.
Where in reality, everything is constantly happening. This is why the only thing permanent in this reality is change.
Exactly. Which is why acceptance becomes so important.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of yoga philosophy in this.
Yeah.
Where did you do some of your training, or maybe another way to phrase this is around who do you consider a mentor or a guru?
Well, I'm a self-taught. I always got, again, when I started questioning also the inner voice, and I also very connected to guides. I always hear them. They were always being with me. But again, at the beginning, when you're in your developing years,
Mhm.
people don't really talk to you about these things.
Right.
Unless you're a Buddhist or somebody that is in a
Spends a
very
lot of time at
spiritual
your mind.
family,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I had all these chatter in my head, actually, and I can recognize now, that some of it is, yes, my own thoughts, my own interpretation, my own realization, but there's other chatter that I had also since the beginning, and there are three voices,
Three voices.
and I can recognize them. They sound really different one from another, and mostly these two voices were talking to each other, and the third voice was like connecting with them, but also talking to me. It's like kind of like the interpreter,
Yeah.
right? And this is also why I learned English,
Ah, okay.
because the inner chatter was happening in English
That's
within the two
amazing.
voices, and the interpreter was talking to me in Espanol.
This reminds me of Yogananda. He got English like downloaded into his head right was as he was starting a speech in Boston because he didn't know English before that. I was just like, all right, well, And that's how source works in mysterious ways.
Exactly,
That's
exactly. So I always had that, right? That chatter going, and when I disconnected for everything, the chatter got higher, got more defined. I was able to hear more, not understand, because I didn't have the knowledge yet, right? So when you haven't activate the knowledge, because I think this is really what happens when you're learning. When you're learning, you just unlock something that you already have within.
Yeah.
Right? This is why we say in the spiritual journey, all of the answers are within.
Right.
And it's through the law of resonance, actually.
Again, this part.
We activate it
Yeah.
through resonance.
Yeah.
It comes within the frequency of voice, right? Within the word, I am word, word that I am word. So it comes within that, and that frequency vibrates and resonates with something that you already have within.
Right.
So when the resonance happens, it activates it.
Yeah. Yeah. And something you said that I want to expand on
Yes.
is around words and how words are spells and
Yes.
words are powerful.
Oh, yeah.
The importance of
Yeah.
words and word choice.
Yeah. This is why we say spelling. Spell that, please.
Yeah, spell it.
Yeah.
And then it's also like there's three things that are needed for materialization in the world, right? First, it's a thought.
Yes, that's a seed.
Then it's the word,
Yes.
because, or writing it down, you're putting it into a physical form to get it ready.
Exactly.
And then it's a physical object. Maybe it's this deck
Yes, that's
of
like
cards.
so the word is this, the thought is the seed,
Mhm.
the verbal expression or the physical expression through writing, it is the prepping of the soil to put the seed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then the nourishment of that, because you have to nourish it, right? You have to give it the proper environment in order for that seed to grow and manifest.
Right. Yeah.
It is the intention, I believe. Or what would be for you the third thing?
Okay, so it's I liked mine were just objects, just having it done. But the third, I get what you're saying. What I It sounds like what you're saying is you can't just manifest by thinking and kind of stopping there and just being like, okay, I did all the steps in my head. It's like, no, now there is action. And that comes from this chakra, actually. The hands and the arms are the heart chakra.
Yes.
And I think that is the key, and that is something that's missing in a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I hate that word, jobs. Right? But it's missing that love, missing the element of like what I'm doing is providing such a beautiful expression of love to happen in the world. It's like, no, what I'm doing is helping a corporation or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't want this to turn into like something where I just poop on corporations because it's not about that.
I
But
mean, to its own, right?
yeah, yeah.
And this is why the free will happens. So we have this freedom. I'm gonna do it like this. We have this freedom of choosing how our life is gonna look like.
Yes.
Right? We
Oh,
have
yeah.
that freedom. We have the freedom to dress the way we want. We have the freedom to speak and express the way we want. We have the freedom to connect with the people that we want. We have the freedom to choose the food that we put into our system,
That then becomes
the
us.
habits, right? The habits that we do every moment, every day.
Yeah.
We have that freedom, but I'll do it air quoting like this because the freedom, it is always going to be limited to our core systems.
Our core systems.
And our core systems is my system of beliefs, my system of values, my judgment, right? What I think is right, what I think is wrong, and my system of desires. Which is the urge, right? The motivation, because without motivation, we do nothing.
Right.
So the motivation is super important. So it's I feel that the chakras that are very connected to that is throat, heart, and solar.
Yeah. These are the ones of doing, of action.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
The expression, the intention and the momentum, right?
Then the power, the force to do it.
Exactly.
Make it happen in the material world.
Exactly.
Wow. I wanted to ask about the tarot cards.
Okay.
And the decks, I should say, the
Yeah.
tarot decks. So talk to us about some of your favorite tarot decks and how you use them.
Yeah, okay. So my absolute favorite is actually an oracle deck, which is this one. Is actually very, very used, but it's so endearing for me. It's called the Enchanted Map. This Oracle deck was given to me by a very awesome teacher that I got at the beginning of my journey, because that's the beautiful thing about this way of experiencing reality, right? Once you make the choice, which is for you, right? You use your freedom of choice to, okay, I'm gonna make this action. But once you make the action, you're not doing it alone. You get support.
Yes.
And that's when all of the elements that you cannot control start aligning for you, either people, situations, timing.
All those past connections, all those past conversations, all of those past
Exactly.
favors done for others. It's like, boom, 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 boom.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So he was actually carrying this deck towards his journeys. He went to India, he went to Peru, he went to different places also to connect with more with his spirit. And he was carrying this deck. And when I met him, he also shared a lot of information with me. When he started sharing, I felt so curious. Like I was like, whoa, like I don't really understand fully what you're saying, but what you're saying is making me feel something warm and fuzzy, like
Yeah.
home.
Hmm. I get it. I get it.
Right? Like,
I felt like that when I learned about yoga philosophy for the first time
look
when I
at
was
that.
in my 200-hour teacher training. I was like,
Yes.
I'm like, this does make sense. How we've gone from a one thing, a God, everything, nothing, into splits of, consciousness, into, different
Yeah.
senses,
Yeah.
into individual experiences of just the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having that moment of, well, realization again, right?
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly. The aha
the
moment,
aha moment.
right?
Yeah.
So he was carrying it, and I was so curious about it, and I used to grab it and just like, hey, can I just get to know it? And it has this guidebook, right? Whenever you pull a card, you see what it says in the guidebook, and every time that I felt it in my hands, it felt so natural. It felt like it wasn't the first time that I was, handling either a tarot deck, an oracle deck. It didn't felt unfamiliar.
Right.
It felt very familiar.
Mhm.
So that's part of the science,
Right.
right? The science when like you're doing certain activities that felt like, oh, if you felt connected to them.
Yeah, almost like a flow state, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So I used to like, okay, let me read, like, let me pull out some cards for you. And every time that I pull cards, either for him or for me, it was so on point. And of course, that kept feeding the curiosity and
Right.
and the urge to know more and to know deeper.
Mhm.
And this was in the period when I was in the mountain. I took 3 years as a hermit actually in that mountain. I wasn't really connecting to people. I was going into town to get, the supplies or the groceries once a month, and the rest it was like me, nature, and learning.
Yes.
And whatever it came,
Hmm.
because the guides also talk, and then okay, learn about chakras, learn about this, learn about colors, vibrations, emotions,
Yeah. Oh,
because most of the times we don't even know how to call the emotions that we are feeling at the moment.
yeah. I saw an emotion chart and it blew my mind. Blew
Right.
my mind. I was like, there are that many? Because I
Yeah.
think it starts with 10 and then there's like subsets of each
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah. Yeah.
one
Yeah.
emotion can turn into 10 more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's almost like these charts like of the faces, right? Like, do you feel like this, like this, like this? It's like start calling them out. When you start calling them out, when you start calling things that you're experiencing, you actually start connecting to them, right? So I was learning and learning, and everything that came into any of my senses, I absorb it.
Yeah. How was it like going into town, being in like a hermit state and being alone and in nature and focused on learning? You said once a week, right? What was that
I'm
once a
once it's all.
Okay, talk to us about what
Well,
would you go do?
at the beginning, it was very challenging. First of all, the disconnection, right? Because we are not used to be with ourselves. We are used to numb ourselves constantly, right? Numb it with distractions,
Mhm.
with relationships, or with substances,
Oh yes.
right?
Yeah.
So once we remove all of the distractions, then you have to face, and what you face is your shadow, and that's not comfortable at all. That's
Mhm.
how they call it, the night of the dark soul, right?
Oh, okay. The night of the dark soul is when you are realizing, I don't want to say embracing, just realizing your shadow self,
Exactly,
those
yeah.
dark sides of you that you want to keep hidden.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I went through that, and every time that I went into town, I would see, people and behaviors, and like it was like I was seeing everything through a third person. That was how it felt.
Okay.
It's like you see the world through the third person, and I think the third person is actually your higher self, right? The one that is not actually judging, is just observing.
Mhm.
So I became more of an observer every time that I came in connection with another human at that time, because unconsciously, right? But intuitively, I felt that my process was to be very conscious of my inner reality,
Yes. Okay.
if that makes sense.
Well, what I'm reading from that is around staying positive, right? Just like you said, having the observer mindset. So almost staying positive isn't correct because it's about not judging it as positive or negative.
Exactly, exactly. It's just
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
right? This is why we call human beings.
Yeah.
Like the most natural essence of us is just being. You just come here to be, right? And this is why we have to connect with nature, because nature teaches you how to just be.
Yeah. To slow down.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm feeling it now. Like I have this view of like all the different places I've been and all the beautiful nature, just like because
Yeah,
there is something about seeing scenes of nature and being up higher in the altitudes as we were talking about earlier. And those are the visions that are coming.
yeah.
It's
And
so
to get the actual
interesting.
sun, right? And to get, the connection with the soil also, right? We are used to constantly be wearing shoes, and the soils are plastic. So that is disconnecting us from the mother.
Right.
No wonder we feel scared. No wonder we feel anxious. No wonder we feel stressed. We are disconnected from the mother, so we feel we are always in fight or flight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I also removed my shoes for the 3 years that I was in the mountain. I didn't wear any shoes at all. So it was also like getting used to, you have your own soles of your feet, and they can get used to walking in different textures.
Oh yeah. Rock, sand, soil.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm just laughing and smiling because that's what I did in Gokarna, India. I had a yoga school on a beach and there were no roads, so no cars were driving in or out of that area. It was lovely. And so I got to a point where I'm like, oh, well, I don't need shoes. There are no roads. It's all just nature.
Yes.
And so for around 6 months out of the year, and then the way your feet change and the way your
Yeah.
mind
Yes.
changes.
Yes, because also your frequency is aligning with the frequency of Mother Nature.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're talking about the instrument analogy earlier. It's almost like,
Clean.
yeah, you're back to that state where you can have a symphony
Yes.
that's connected
Yeah,
and the sounds are happening at the same
yeah,
time rather than the disconnection.
exactly. You're playing along with it.
I'm gonna be using this. I'm gonna be thinking about and using this
Please,
analogy and
please do.
seeing it. You know what I mean, though? Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
just see it wherever I go with people talking and interacting. It's like, oh, that's how their symphony is. Like
Yeah.
that's right.
Yes,
That's
yes,
but we do that anyway. We just don't know it,
yes.
right?
And it's all about perception, right? This is how also realization comes from shifting your perception. Like once I shift my sight, my perception also shifts, right? Like if we do this experiment right now, we just
Yeah.
close one eye and then the other, we can see like a little shift, right? A movement.
Yeah.
So that's basically it, right? We're just shifting a perception, therefore we're experiencing a whole new reality.
Yeah. And to me, it relates to beliefs as well. So changing perspectives, it's around changing beliefs. It's saying to yourself, I love myself, right? Rather than maybe some of the mean things we say in our
Exactly,
head. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but that also comes from a background of conditional love, right?
Yeah.
And that has been passed through generations and generations, where if you do things right, you're gonna get, well valued, you're gonna get appreciated, you're gonna receive attention and love. But if you do things that are not, what they expect, you're gonna receive what? Rejection.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
hurts, pain.
no, totally. And then you get into that moment of you're out of the pack again, you know,
Yes.
and you're disconnected.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So we are cycles also.
yeah,
We're cyclical. And I think it's not about trying to break the cycle. It's about to align ourselves to a cycle that makes sense to us.
yes. As individuals,
Exactly.
stripped away of the family, of the
Yes.
society, of
Yes.
spouse, of
Yes.
whatever it
Yes.
is.
But for that, you have to know yourself. And in order to know yourself, you have to connect with yourself. There's no other way.
Right. How do you connect with yourself? You mentioned grounding.
Yeah, so I also received this tool that now I am practicing and sharing with others, which is the tool of numerology.
Mhm.
In my staying as a hermit, I got to connect with people that they had a ranch and they also help other humans to reintegrate to society after being exposed to heavy substances such as heroin.
Right.
So we were at this dinner. I got invited to this dinner, and in the table there was a guy who knew this form of numerology, because also this form of numerology that I work with is not a numerology that you find normally in books. It's a numerology that is passed through math. It's worth to math,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, just give me your birth date and I'll have a gift for you, right? So when we finished dinner, he started sharing this information. And when he got to me, he started sharing a lot of things that I wasn't, really
Aware of?
aware of, yes. But it felt deep, like how this person that has never seen me in my life before knows more about me than myself, or is able to recognize things that I'm not even doing it at this moment. So that of awakened my curiosity even more, and I was like, okay, what's that form of sorcery? I want to learn it and I want to do it.
Right.
So he shared with me, he shared the name, and then I started to go deep into it. But again, all self-taught,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all like receiving. And that's how also I recognize that I am a channel, right? And I believe that we are all channels
I agree.
because we
Yes.
are connected to source. So that's the way intuition works. Intuition is actually a channel.
Mhm.
The more we listen to it, we polish it, right? We master it. And the more we master it, the more clear and the more information we get.
Yeah. Yeah. But that requires, like you said, going out there and having that reflection, right? Interacting.
Exactly.
And this is, I'm just asking because I've been in cavern mode and I'm like, I'm
Exactly.
feeling it. I'm really feeling it. Yeah. Like you said, just the confrontation of the shadow of like, okay, we're here, we're doing it.
Yes,
So,
yes. And that is a cycle. Huh? I've been through the dark night of the soul many, many times, but every time you go through the cycle, you go with more awareness and therefore more tools to, go through it with the least amount of resistance. So yeah, when I learn numerology, I also apply it into me, and I use my free will choice to actually use the advices through the numerology, because every time that I share the numbers, it comes with certain, advices or activities that you can implement in your daily reality in order to connect deeper.
yeah,
This is like why I also really, really like this tool, because it's very practical into your daily reality.
right. So you can expect a big realization up front, maybe something that awareness wasn't there.
Yes,
And then boom, here's what to do now. Here are like the
yes,
steps you can
yes,
actually take. That sounds
exactly.
amazing.
Yes, it is. It is very practical, it's very easy to understand, but it's very deep
Mhm.
and valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, numerology.
yeah.
I had a numerology reading done in India by a person from the United States, and it was a really good reading. And yes, same thing. It was a realization. My chart said, or my reading rather said, that I was very affected by the moon cycles, like more than kind of typical.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I didn't even know
Yeah.
what that meant at that point. And then I started looking into the moon cycles, and then I started charting it around my sleep and was like, oh, wow, like it is affected by it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, if they took their cell phones have those little apps that do sleep trackers. I feel like if that has some sort of tie into the moon cycle, there might be information there that's interesting,
Yeah, yeah,
you
no,
know?
but that's the thing, right? And that's the beauty of it. We talked a little bit ago about this era of technology,
Yeah.
right? And technology, yes, it kind of be disconnecting us from, like true or real interactions, but it's also a great tool if we know how to use it, right? It's a matter of perspective. Yes, we are experiencing, as I see it, the era of infobesity.
Info city. Yeah.
Right? There's so
Yeah.
much information that you end up not even, realizing what is everything that you're absorbing. And a lot of things that you're absorbing, you might not even need this in your journey at the moment, right? It's like so much that overwhelms you
Mm.
and just blocks you.
Right.
So it's about also choosing which time I'm going to connect, right? What subject I'm going to connect to, and for how long.
Right. I think that is something that should be classified as a bad habit is too much checking of the news or doom scrolling or just
Yes.
any activity that sucks up your time but doesn't actually give you, I don't know, joy or value, right?
Yes, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. And
So
then keep continue.
so again, it's just a matter of awareness, yes, but that awareness comes from questioning.
Yeah.
I don't get aware if I don't question,
Hmm.
right? So I'm gonna question if this is really something that is gonna help me to achieve my goal. If I already know my goal, right? But if I don't know my goal, my action is just aimless.
Right.
So I need to put a name in my action.
A goal, a direction,
Yes,
somewhere that you're
exactly.
driving to.
And this is how numerology also helps you, right? It allows you for you to know what is your soul's purpose. You are vibrating, thank you. You are vibrating on a certain frequencies,
Yeah.
and those frequencies are forming or are creating your purpose, which is your path of the least resistance.
Mhm.
Again, we have the free will choice, and either we choose to go through the path of least resistance, or we may say, you know what, I don't want to follow that. I'm going to choose something else, but I have to understand and become aware that whatever I'm choosing is going to come with resistance. It's going to come with situations that are going to challenge me and challenge me and challenge me
Mhm.
until I out.
Right. I love that idea. That makes so much sense to me because it's relatable, right? That we might live certain parts of our lives rubbing up against our natural talents, like
Yes,
not doing the things we should be doing that are easy to us, that path of least resistance,
yes.
because of expectation or society or whatever layer is put over us and kind of is blinding us. That's,
And also comes with the system of beliefs, because
yeah.
they told us, how many times have you heard that life is hard, that if you don't really push yourself, you don't deserve to have wealth, you don't deserve to be happy. Like it's all about, always fighting and fighting and grinding and fighting and sacrificing.
Mhm.
Oh my God. And what I discovered is that something that you really struggle to get, you need to struggle to keep.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable.
Yeah. And then, oh, I mean, it's good to have gratitude, but I get what you're saying. The struggle part is like,
Yeah,
that's just back to beliefs, isn't it?
yeah,
If we can just change that belief, like
yeah,
actually it's not a struggle,
yeah,
then all of a sudden it does shift.
exactly.
Can.
And Mama Nature is teaching us constantly. She doesn't hurry. She just, she takes her divine time. She just goes through her own processes and understands that it's all a cycle of death and regeneration. And that's what we're doing constantly. We are, and that's the way we are evolving, right? We started from a certain standpoint, which are certain core systems, right? I used to believe that, but through experience, I come to believe something different. So it was thanks to that belief that took me to this other belief, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah,
It's all about an exchange.
it is. Yeah. And well, and a growth from A to B, right? I'm a different person at B than I was starting at A.
Yes,
Okay, very cool.
yes.
Talk to us about us. Talk to me about some recent clients you've helped, and without giving specifics away, obviously about their identity, but some challenges they were having and insights they were able to receive.
Yeah. So it's I've been seeing a pattern of the people that comes to me of like they lack of purpose. Well, they think they lack purpose because at the end, right, the intuition is telling you, but they don't value those qualities. They don't value those gifts enough to actually put them into practice because they feel that if they don't dedicate themselves to whatever society has, set as this is what you have to do in order to succeed in life,
Right.
and these other things are only your hobbies and you get to do them if you have the free time.
Yes, been
If you
there.
are lucky enough, if
Right.
you're lucky enough to have the free time,
Right.
right? So that's the pattern that I've been getting a lot. Like the people like shifting their perspective into their, their gifts and their talents and their attitudes, and actually using that to experience a life of success.
Yes. Okay. 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 Who doesn't want that? Honestly,
I
who doesn't
mean,
want that either for themselves or for everyone around them?
exactly.
I do see a future Earth where that is possible. We have our own little, don't you think?
Yes.
And we're
Yes.
awakening to that slowly.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we all have our own little spaces, it's our own little
Yes.
homes,
Yes.
and we interact with our neighbors because that's where we get our, that's where we get our eggs, or that's where we get our honey, or that's where we get the
Yes.
beautiful macrame they made.
Yes.
Whatever it is that their heart is calling to create,
Yes.
they're actually able to do that as a way of sustaining
Yeah.
themselves instead of
And actually, let's integrate technology into this because thanks to technology, people, if they are smart enough but smart, I don't say it's smart only by knowledge, right? If they are smart enough in with their intuition, if they are intuitively smart enough, they can realize, we can all realize that we can use AI, we can use technology to do the tasks, the mundane, the boring tasks that we actually don't come here to do. This is why we have the possibility to develop
right.
this technology in order for it to do that, so we can dedicate ourselves to our true gifts and talents, and most of all is art because we are musical instruments.
Yes, I agree. It is art. And
Yeah.
and just going back to saying that we are source energy, we are God, right?
Yeah.
We are divine. That's what God does, is
Yes.
creates,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
we are God and we are creators, and
Yes.
we, whether we realize it or not, are creating our lives and
Yeah.
creating every single day and deciding, okay, how do I want to spend that?
Yes.
And what do I want to do?
Exactly. And this is why we call it creativity,
Mm.
right? Creativity from the art of creation. It's an art form. And creativity, like it gets triggered through curiosity,
Yes.
right? And curiosity comes from the imagination of our childlike energy. This is why in the Bible they say the kingdom belongs to the children, and they don't mean it literally. Right? They mean it as your childlike essence. And your
Right.
childlike essence is the one that gets curious and allows imagination, because also imagination comes from the word magician, right? Imagi is magician.
Yeah.
So you use your magic, which is your power to expand beyond what's already in existence, right?
Mhm.
You push those boundaries of what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
And therefore you can actually create.
Yeah. It's scary though, don't you think? I'm only saying this because I'm finally allowing myself to expand and create again, and it's a fear thing that was kind of holding me back for so long.
Yeah.
Did you talk to us about your experience with that?
Yes, of course. I mean, I recognize that the fear, all the fears are connected to a system, an outdated system of beliefs. So whatever caused me fear instead of excitement,
Mhm.
because it is within the same energetic field, it's just a different vibration.
Mhm.
Fear and excitement are actually the same. It's just
It's
one is low
energy.
frequency and
It's
the other one is high frequency, right?
uh-huh.
So when I am in fear, that means that my system of beliefs connected to that fear, it is outdated. So again, it was very, I felt a lot of fear to resign to the makeup artist, right? To sell the company and to dedicate myself to who knows what. Because at the moment I didn't even know,
Right.
And then it comes all of these doubts, like how am I gonna make a living? What am I gonna eat? How am I gonna pay rent? What is everybody gonna think of me again, right? So again, this is why trust is super important. But trust has to come from a strong and what would be the word? Um, updated? Yes,
Hmm.
updated system of beliefs.
Updated system of beliefs.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That is powerful. I love just the enthusiasm you have, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Tristan.
Yeah, all of the different curiosities you've had, right? That's led to the research into the esotericism, because it is such a useful thing to be able to talk to someone and have a conversation with them, a client, and by the end of that conversation, they're like, "You made me aware of something I didn't know. Now I have a plan of how I can connect back with myself," because we don't know how to do that, do we? We don't know how to do that. So how to connect back with myself so that I can do the analysis, but also like ask myself about the emotion. So bring the logic to the emotion and
Yes,
then bring it down. Maybe first to the gut. So now what is the land of possibility? What are all of the different things that I can have in my future? And then bring it to the heart and go, but what if I had to flip a coin? What side would I really, really want that coin to land on?
exactly,
Right? So that you
exactly.
know.
Yeah. So it's a matter of also developing the different intelligence that we have within our system, right? We are not only uh, intelligent, smart within the logic and the analysis, right? Because this is the limited mind. This is the mind that gets programmed with whatever we ingest, right? Whatever we read, whomever we talk, whatever we listen, everything that we connected, this gets programmed
Yeah.
consciously or unconsciously, right? And this can be very limiting. So it is about not only using this brain. Yes, we have to use this brain in order to have certain structure, I'm sorry, within action, right? If I don't structure my ideas, I'll be all over the place.
Yes.
But it's very important to also develop the emotional intelligence. This is located in the heart. The heart is a brain. It thinks, right? And it thinks through emotion. So also understanding that you are not your emotions. You're the one who gets to feel them. And this is why you need to call them out in order to actually get to know them and recognize what they do in your system and how long they stay with you.
Ooh, which emotions do you feel stay the longest?
I will say disappointment, anger, and fear,
Mm-hmm.
but they shouldn't, but they do because the reptilian brain, again, the logic and the analysis is acting and is grabbing them in order to keep avoiding, danger.
Mm, yeah.
So it stays the longest with them. So it keeps them triggering. So you stay in this alert state, right? The fight or flight. But normally an emotion, I read somewhere that an emotion lasts like a minute to go through your system.
And that's just hormonal. That's literally just like all those connections and liquids
Yes.
and what
Yeah.
have you.
The fact that we grab into it again, it is through our outdated system
Yeah.
of beliefs
And then it stays in the nervous system and as dysregulation
and creates a trauma,
and creates a trauma.
right?
Yeah.
Because it keeps on playing in the back, keeps on playing and playing and playing. And also the trauma is a habit.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's part of the pattern.
It soon, well, I would almost say too, it becomes a choice after a certain point. Like there's only so much people can do in life to be like, hello, like hello, like you've been traumatized by something that happened years ago. Like let's,
Yeah,
you know,
you start identifying with it. And as soon as you identify with anything, you become that. Whatever you identify, you will become.
it's true.
And there's this third brain, which is the intuitive brain, right? That's the brain that comes from intuition. That's the thing that I know, but I don't know how I know it. And that brain also plays a very important part in this spiritual reality because the intuition is that inner knowledge.
Yeah.
And the inner knowledge, it comes from source.
Right.
But we cannot also play everything through intuition because then we will close to learn new things.
Okay, so it needs to be balanced.
It needs to be balanced, and the one balancing is the emotional intelligence.
Okay.
That's the way
Yes.
that I see it and that I think it kind of works.
I like that I'm making so many connections in my head as you're saying it though, because it's like I'm going back to again needing connection with others so that we get that reflection back of what we are. That to me is heart. And oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can open so many rabbit
Yeah,
holes with everything.
exactly. How do you just I should say, how do you re-regulate?
How do I deregulate? I do different things. First of all, is prana, right? The conscious breathing,
Mhm.
from the very simple one to the cleansing breath that is just inhaling and then let it all out. And I repeat that at least 3 times.
Mhm.
And I can also integrate a mantra with that, right? So I inhale, and the mantra will be I am here, I am now, I am present, and then exhale.
Here, I'm now present.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Love
can
the mantra.
also, yes, I
Love
can
the
also use the elements, the earth elements, fire. I can write all of the thoughts that might be, not really beneficial
Mhm.
at the moment. I can write them down and burn them to let the fire transmute, that is shift the energy.
Yeah.
I could also go into the ocean or go into a river, which is including water, or actually drinking water.
Oh, yes. Eating a meal, I heard, is like a huge way of re-regulating. It's like, get a big meal in you. Like,
Yeah.
like eat something.
Yes, exactly. Most of the times we are only dehydrated, right?
Yes, agree.
So
Chronically.
or I shower, right? And when I shower, I use my third eye, which is the visualizing, right? Visualization, where I visualize my energetic field being cleansed as well, and all of the energy that doesn't belong to me going down the drainage,
Right.
right? I could use the earth. I remove my shoes. I go to the park and I just walk and I just stand.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Love that.
Or yeah, I think that's my tools,
The
my
tools.
my easy access tools.
What's great about it is that those are things that are actually quite easily accessible every day for most people. Like most people have a patch of grass they can go barefoot on.
Yes.
I'm hoping, hopefully, and water
Yes.
or eating a good meal and drinking.
Exactly.
But like, I don't know, we do tend to take those things for granted, don't we? Like I remember when I had an office job, I wasn't connecting with earth and worrying about my hydration levels and, of course I ate and drank and all that, but you spend so much time running from like meeting to meeting to answer an email to phone call, and you
Yeah.
don't have that time to connect back with yourself and then connect back with earth.
Yeah, yeah, because you're so distracted. Your attention is your main power. Yeah, right. So where attention goes, energy flows. So actually, your attention is your main currency. It's not money. Money is another vehicle, but your main currency comes from your attention. Whatever you give your attention, you make it part of your experience.
I've heard it described as time is a big currency, but I like attention more.
Yeah, because I feel time is actually divine. So it's not linear as we know it.
Mm.
So divine timing is actually divine timing. I think it gets activated when you align to the frequency that you want to experience, right? So whenever things are delaying, it is because your frequency it is not vibrating at the same as your desire.
Mm.
So actually, this is how divine timing works. You make it accessible when you align energetically.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you realize that it is not the same waiting a minute, with your cell phone in your hand, that doing a plank or underwater. So that's how we can realize that time is actually a linear. It's a mental construct.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Well, I talk to people about addiction a lot,
Yeah.
and so what I would always say to someone who feels like they have an addiction is to think about time as being non-linear and to think about every time there's that choice of going back to an addiction, it's like there is no other time to make that decision. There's only the current moment. So it's keeping that in mind. Um, but that brings us on like a whole nother tangent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another rabbit hole.
Another rabbit hole, field of many rabbit holes.
Exactly.
Wow. So what do you think is next for you in the next year of like your healing journey or energetic path?
I feel that what's next is keep sharing this knowledge. I feel that yes, we are gonna get to experience, or we get to experience another dimension, which is another reality for the human existence. And this reality is a reality when there's no more pain, there's no more competition, there's no more sense of lack or scarcity, right? Because we are realizing that we are abundant beings, we are divinity, therefore we have the freedom and the birthright to create constantly, and it's under our power because my attention is very, connected to my intelligence. And I feel that what keeps coming for me is just, keep being open to keep learning, because we never stop learning. And I feel that, and I believe that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And to experience a human existence, we have to be very empowered,
Oh yeah.
but not the false power as a material wealth, or just,
Spiritual power, source
exactly,
power, really,
exactly.
which is, I don't know, I was gonna say, would you say it's intellectual, but it's like it's a good mix, isn't it,
Yes.
of the intuition, of the
Yes.
resonance of the heart.
And yes, it is intellectual, but
Yeah.
not only logical and analytical.
Yeah, energetic and
Yes.
feeling more.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I want to experience that reality, and I know I cannot do it by myself. I know that we are all one,
Mhm.
and the more that I share, and the more that I get to help others to feel empowered about who they are, what's their essence, and what's their purpose, the more we are gonna align to actually make the shift.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to reach a critical mass really, 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 really soon.
Yeah.
You know, it's
We
happening.
feel it.
Yeah, we all do.
We feel it. We
We've all
see it so close, so
exactly.
close.
Yeah, we're almost there.
We're almost there.
I love it. So,
Yeah.
how do you want people to get in contact with you?
Okay, so you can get through my social media. Instagram is Ana Seshat Magic. I have also a landing page, which is www.anaseshat.com. And Facebook is has Ana Seshat Intuitive Advisor.
Intuitive advisor. Very cool. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
This has been the How We Are Healing podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Tristan. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Tristan, for having me.
Hello, I'm Tristan. I was just like you. I wanted to become a yoga teacher. I noticed all the positive changes it brought to my life. I didn't want to have to travel, though, to do a yoga teacher training and all that goes along with that, right? Being put in a room with a bunch of strangers. What if I had to use the bathroom and I have to miss a part of the lecture and dealing with that awkwardness? I also didn't want to have to spend a fortune, and let's be real, yoga teacher trainings can be very expensive. Lastly, I wanted to be able to start teaching yoga right away because, if I'm honest, I felt ready before I was even certified. It's just what happens when you find something that really speaks to your soul and when you have that focus and when you have that discipline. For me, the program I wanted didn't exist, but now it does. I created it. I created the yoga teacher training that I dreamed of. It's a course that's affordable at just $99 a month. You can even finish everything within the first 30 days if you're super dedicated. But there's no pressure. Go at your own pace, it's there. Because of this, also, you can start earning money right away. I give you the tools you need so that you can start earning. That means the course immediately starts paying for itself. Just in case that's not enough, there is also a 30-day money-back guarantee. I wanted to make it so that you have nothing to lose, an entire lifetime of yoga knowledge to gain. So what are you waiting for? Get started today. Go to shantiyogaschool.com to access the course now. That's SHANTI yogaschool.com. Hey, it's Tristan again. Thanks for tuning in to How We Are Healing. I hope you found it meaningful. If you'd like to support the podcast, consider leaving a review or sending this episode to friends and family. Until next time, Omis, keep shining.